Hi, I'm Hannah and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is going to be like reviewing or trying the Revolution X Rachel Leary Ultimate Goddess palette. So it was €18. I bought mine from Beauty Bay, which is like a really good price for such a big palette. She did bring out two palettes, one smaller one. This is the bigger one as well. I think the smaller one was like €12 maybe. Is the palette. I'm going to try not show the mirror, because then you'll see how disgusting my bedroom is, but it's like half eyes and half like face side, but it doesn't, like, it was basically like to create the perfect look for your eyes and face. So I think like everything can be used on both sides, or like I assume it just means that the cheek stuff can be used like on this side. So I was most excited for this to try the highlighters, because if anybody follows Rachel Leary, like, she's always proper glowing. On the top there is like two kind of bronzery shades, and they're really like warm bronzers, which is kind of again like signature to how like Rachel Leary does her makeup. And then like a bronzy highlight, which is so nice. I don't know if you're going to be able to like see the swatches on my fingers and stuff like that, because from where I sit with my camera I look like really overexposed, but then it doesn't look like that when I'm editing the video, so I can never really tell. And then there's like two kind of peachy toned highlighters and a peachy toned blush, and then three highlighters at the bottom called Glaze, Ultimate Goddess and Aphrodite. Glaze looks like a white highlighter, but it actually shows up kind of like goldeny, but you'll see it when I use it on the skin. Then Ultimate Goddess reminds me of Trophy Wife from Fenty Beauty, and then Aphrodite is like a pink highlighter, and they're all like really creamy to touch. So Bronze Glow, Indulge, or maybe it's Bronde, I don't know, Perfect Peach, Rosé, Caroline, Glazed, Ultimate Goddess and Aphrodite. And then there is 4, 8, 12, 16 eye colours over here: Pina Colada, Passion Fruit, Oh Honey, 666, Fantastic, Baby Girl, Fine Wine, 70%, Glossy, Drippin', Twerk, October, Paradise, Cash, Kisses and Goodbye. So the top 8 are matte shadows and the bottom 8 are shimmer shadows. So for €18 again, like, you do get a lot in it, and it is like a really good variety. I already prepped my eyelids with the Anastasia eye primer, which I reviewed in another video if you want to go watch that. I do kind of like a brown soft cut crease, like with kind of like shimmer on the inner third of my eye, just because there is a lot of shimmers in it and there is like a lot of colours and there's a lot of options. So I'm gonna just try do one like doable eye look with it, to just like test how they blend and stuff like that, as opposed to trying to actually go in and use every single colour. The colour I'm gonna go in with is Fantastic, which is this shade here. I'm just gonna pat that kind of in like a semicircle above my crease. Right away, the colours are really pigmented and they're applying really nicely. They're not sticking to the base in like a weird place and refusing to blend out. Like, they're going on really creamy and easily. I'm just going to blend that out with a clean blending brush and just diffuse the edges of the colour a little bit. Using a smaller blending brush, this is a blank canvas one but the number has rubbed off. I'm going to go in with the shade Passion Fruit Martini and place that just like slightly above and on the edge of that colour that we already applied. I'm back in with Fantastic and just repeating that step. And using a Huda Beauty Pro blending brush, I'm going to go in with the shade Oh Honey, which is this kind of like mustardy yellow, and I'm going to use that to just blend out the edges. I'm going in with the same brush but a clean version and just going over that to make sure that it's all blending out seamlessly into the base. Now using a smaller bullet brush, I think this was from Morphe, whatever they're called. I'm going to go in with the shade 70%, which is the dark like cool tone brown, and I'm going to deepen up the crease. So I'm applying that directly into my crease, kind of like on top of Fantastic. I'm going back in with Fantastic and blending that out. Just using the short side of the Anastasia blending brush that comes with all the palettes, and I'm going to go into one of the bronzer shades called Indulge and go over where I put the darker brown. And I'm just repeating those steps until I'm happy with the blend. I just repeated all of those steps, going back in with all of the brushes and just blending them all into each other until I'm happy with the colour payoff. Using the shade Indulge, which is one of the kind of like bronzer contour shades on my eyes, actually works really well, and I haven't had any trouble with the colours like blending out at all. I really like the consistency of them, they're blending really nicely. So now I'm just going back in with the Anastasia eye primer, and I'm going to use an Art and Hobby brush to cut my crease. I'm not going to be too particular with cutting the crease, like I don't really care if it's messy or not, because I don't want this to be a super structured cut crease, or for right now I don't anyway. I might decide like later on that it looks better as a structured one, but I want to like incorporate a couple of the shimmer shades and the highlighter shades onto the cut crease. The Art and Hobby brush that I'm using is just like a flat brush, I don't know what to call it. And then I'm just going to use my ring finger to tap out where the cut crease meets the rest of the shadow, so it's not too like thick, or it's not like affecting the blend basically. My crease is cut. I'm going to go in with the shimmer shade October, and I'm going to try and pat that on and kind of bring it into the dark brown blend on the edge of my eye. The payoff of that shadow is actually really nice. It comes out like a metallic, almost like a foiled shade. It's more of like a pressed pigment than like just a sheer shimmer shadow. And that shade is like a really nice true bronze. So without wiping my brush or anything, I'm now going to go into the shade Bronze Glow, which is one of the cheek shades, and I'm going to press that onto the kind of like middle or inner kind of area, like meeting the shade October. Oh, it's so nice. That's like a really coppery gold colour, and again the payoff is amazing. Now with the same brush again, I'm going to go into the shade Drippin' flat brush, and then I'm going to press this into the inner and the only like bare part of the cut crease that's left, and I'm just going to press that on top. I'm just going to go back in between the three shades and just making sure that they're all blending in nicely together, so it's kind of like an ombre gold bronzy foil thing going on my cut crease. I'm going in with a bullet brush. I think this one's from Fuchsia, but I've had it for like 100 years, so I'm not too sure. I'm going to go in with the shade Glazed. I said earlier that this looks like a white highlight in the palette, but then when you actually swatch it, it comes out like a kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's like an off-white with like gold reflex or something through it. Like, I don't know, it's just really nice. So this is the part where I said that I didn't want it to be too structured, so I basically packed this onto my inner corner, and then I will drag from my inner corner back onto the cut crease, and it will just like basically open up the shape of my eye more, and that's why it doesn't matter whether the cut crease was neat or not, because this will just get rid of the like structure of it. Take that small bullet brush from earlier and go back in with the really dark shade called 70%, and I'm going to just go from the outer crease and drag it back on top of my lash line, kind of acting like a smoky liner. And I'm happy with how that eye looks. I'm going to move on and do the other eye off camera. Now that I have both eyes finished, I'm going to move on to my skin. So I'm just going to prep my base. My skin is completely prepped. I'm going to just go in with the Revolution Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation in the shade F10.5. I've never used this before, and I thought it would be good to wait to use it with this. And I did think about using the eyeshadow or the concealer as an eye base, but I just thought it would be more fair to use something that I use all the time, because then I'd get like an accurate representation of how they work. And I know that Revolution does have its own range of eye bases, but I don't have them. So I just thought it would be better to use an eye base in case the concealer didn't work well with it, although I'm sure it would because I love Revolution products. But anyway, I'm out my Huda Beauty foundation brush, and I'm just gonna use this to sheer out the product that I've applied to my skin. I really like this foundation brush because it really does sheer whatever you put on your skin right out to like the thinnest layer. I'm just gonna go in now with the Revolution Conceal and Define in the shade C2. I'm gonna bounce that in using my Real Techniques Beauty Blender. In now and bake with my Laura Mercier powder just under my eyes, and then set the rest of my face with it as well. While I let that bake, I'm going to go in and finish the rest of my eyes. Staying with the kind of like bronzy smoky look that we have so far, I'm going to just use a Rimmel black liner pencil to tightline and then line my waterline, and then I'm gonna smudge it out using the dark brown shadow from the palette. I always run that just like kind of through my bottom lashes as well. And I'm just going to use the same brush that I used to apply the dark shade earlier, this little small bullet brush, and the shade 70%, which is the darkest colour in the palette. And I'm just going to kind of run this through my lashes and kind of onto my waterline as well. But I have quite sensitive eyes, so if it's like uncomfortable I won't do it, but I can usually survive without getting leaky eye. I probably just cursed myself now, but we'll see. I'm going to go in and use whatever shades I used on top in the kind of like reverse order going down, but trying to keep them all quite close to my lash line. So just using the shade Indulge, again on the smaller side of the Anastasia blending brush, and just kind of basically placing it on top of where I just put the 70%. And just bringing it back up to meet the shadows on top. And I'm just going back between those two shades and the two brushes, just making sure that the two colours are blending nicely together. And now going in with the shade Fantastic on a slightly fluffier brush, and just being a little bit more careful with this because it is a bigger brush. I don't want to bring it too far down, so I'm going to do it basically like half on top of the last shade and half on top of my skin, if that makes sense. And again, just blending that back up to meet the other shadows. If I keep touching this ear, it's because I got my second ears pierced on both sides and up here, so I don't know, I just keep like fidgeting with that ear. And that smaller brush again, or not the smaller brush, the blank canvas brush, and the shade Passion Fruit just along the edges of that last shade. And again, just bringing it up to meet the rest of the colours on top. And lastly, going in with the shade Oh Honey, just to bring that mustard kind of outer hue that I have going on the top, on the bottom as well, and just bringing it back up to meet the rest of the shades. And just repeating those steps until you're happy with the blend. And just dusting away that bake before I go in and do the rest of my skin. So again, I always feel like I look really overexposed because I'm quite far away from the camera, but for how it looks in the mirror now, that foundation shade actually looks quite nice. Like obviously it was still too dark for me not having fresh tan on, which is what I matched it to when I was in there, and I'm like not that dark now, but I do think I still need to get a lighter one. But I actually really like that foundation. I think it would be a really nice like going out foundation. I just hope that it stays on my skin because I am quite oily, but it did dry down to a matte finish, so I don't see why it wouldn't. So first for my skin, I'm going to go in with the shade Indulge, which is like the chocolatey brown shade that we've been using on our eyes so far. And I'm using a Zoeva Luxe Sheer Cheek Brush, and I'm just dipping that in lightly, and then I'm going to tap off the excess, and I'm going to press this into the skin. And I'm going to use this shade more as the contour, and then I'm going to warm it up with the shade Bronde or Brond, I don't know what that's called, but actually like a really nice, I feel like it looks too harsh because again I think I'm overexposed. But that's like a really nice warm contour shade. I have like a lot of warm bronzers and a lot of them I found come up too orange on the skin, but this is like just the right mix of like warm and cool. Just dusting that lightly around the edges of my face. I'm going to use a Bobbi Brown angled face brush, and for blush I'm going to I don't know whether to go in with Rosé first and then go in with one of the other shimmer shades, or I might go in with Caroline first. Or no, okay, I'm gonna go in with Perfect Peach first and see how it pays off. And if it's too like sheeny, I will go in with some of the Rosé one and try and build it up a little bit. So tapping that in, tapping off the excess, dipping it in, tapping off the excess, and I'm just gonna smile. Is absolutely gorgeous, but it is like kind of like a highlighted blusher shade, so I'm going to go in with some of Rosé, which is more of like a matte, I don't know, there still is like a bit of a glow to it, kind of like peachy orangey shade, and put that like on top and blend it back into my bronzer. I'm just gonna sculpt out my cheekbones, or basically I'm just gonna bake underneath, but I like to think it makes my face look less round. Using the Laura Mercier powder and the Original Beauty Blender. Now to highlight, I'm going to use two of the shades in the palette and two brushes also. So what I like to do when I highlight is I always use one shade that's kind of like either closer to my bronzer than my highlighter is, or closer to my blusher than my highlighter is. And then I go in with like a highlighter on top, if that makes sense. So I'm going to try and like do that now with this as well. So I'm going to use the shade Aphrodite, which is a pink toned highlighter. I think, or maybe it's also a blusher, I don't know, but we're going to use it anyway and see what happens. And I'm using a Bobbi Brown sheer powder brush. And I'm just going to apply that on the tops of my cheekbones down to where the kind of glowy part of the blush is. I'm going in with my Morphe, whatever, brush. It is an R37 and the shade Glazed, and I'm going to be more particular where I put this highlight. So I basically want this to be like the main highlight on my skin, and the rest of it to kind of act like a transition colour so that it's not like a white stripe on my skin. Now that all my highlighting is done, I'm just going to dust off my bake using my bake powder brush. I'm just going to coat my skin with Fix Plus to help all the powders melt in together. While my Fix Plus dries into my skin, I'm just going to curl my lashes, apply mascara, stick some lashes on, draw my lips on and set my brows in place, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm finished. On my lips is Wifey Liquid Lip, or Flirt Lip Liner from Huda Beauty, Wifey Liquid Lip, NYX Soft Matte Lip Cream in Cairo, and Anastasia Butterscotch Gloss. That's like my go-to nude lip and I love it. And on my eyes I used the Bobbi Brown Smoky Eye Mascara, the Girls with Attitude Luxury Foam Ink Lashes in Saint, which are €6 from Pennies. It's my first time using them and I love them. I feel like they're like the perfect lash for this look. They kind of remind me of Sosu in Milan, but they're like not as long and they're a little bit fluffier. But they're fab because you can still see all of the detail of my eyeshadow, but there is still like just a bit of added drama. Brows is Anastasia Brow Wiz and Soft Brown and the Got To Be gel to set them. I also just added a little bit of the Goddess highlight from the palette under my brow bone, and I think that's everything. So my final thoughts on this palette are that I absolutely love it. Like, I cannot fault it. There wasn't one thing in this palette that I didn't like. I proper love Rachel Leary, but I was going into this with an open mind. I'm really impressed with this palette and I can't get over the fact that it's only €18. I obviously only did one kind of colour scheme. Well, not one kind of colour scheme, but like I kept to the one kind of like bronzy gold smoky kind of look with this, but there is like so much colour in this palette and so many options. Like you can, like, they're all real essential matte shades. Like, I was looking to get a all matte kind of like brown palette, or like I was thinking about getting the Anastasia Soft Glam palette, because I find that that's like a palette of colours that you hit pan on first, and I think that this is like the exact same thing, because you do have the option to deepen it up or like make it a little bit more colourful and stuff like that. And that brown, like that was like serving as a black in certain areas, and then it was like lightening when I blended it out with the lighter browns with like this one and Tantastic. The foil shadows, or I don't know if they're supposed to be pressed pigment, whatever she's calling them, are so nice. Like the payoff was so good with them. I didn't wet my brush with Fix Plus or anything, and it was just a flat art and hobby brush. Like, it wasn't even a dense brush or anything, and they were paying off so nice on my eyes. These colours, wow, like they're just so nice. Like I think this one, for me to use that as a highlighter, I'd have to be very tanned, either in the sun or with fake tan, for me to get away with using that as a highlighter. But I think even like on deeper skin tones, that would be so nice. There's a darker colour like that could definitely work as a contour for somebody who is a lot darker, and then this one could work as a contour for somebody who is a lot more fair. I just went ham and kind of used everything, and even like this colour came up as a bit too light on the apples of my cheeks, because I had gone in with basically every single colour and I'd used really dark foundation as well. But this as well would be so nice on a darker skin tone. I didn't actually use it. I think that's one of the few, I think that's the only shade over here that I didn't actually use on my skin. I kind of think the makeup speaks for itself. Hopefully you can see the detail of it and everything, but I am absolutely over the moon with this palette, and I think it's definitely worth €18, and I love Rachel Leary and I love this palette, and I think everybody should go and buy it. I kind of think that's everything. I don't think I have anything else to say. If you have any like questions about any other products, I kind of think I mentioned everything though, but anything else that I've used on my skin or anything like that, just feel free to ask. I know nobody will, because I have about 7 subscribers, but thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.